Hey guys, Amanda here at Bare Bones Living, and today I am canning my tomatoes that I still have coming in. I actually planted a whole garden at my dad's house, and I was a really bad gardener, and I barely attended to it at all, but most of my plants still produced quite a good number of tomatoes, really large tomatoes, and most of the plants fell over because those are pretty large fruit. And somehow critters didn't get to them and destroy them, so now I'm trying to preserve them so that we can actually make something out of them. So this is the hull that my dad brought in, and there are some pretty gargantuan tomatoes in there. I don't want these to go to waste. So what I'm doing is I'm just coring them. I don't know if the camera's going to zoom or not, but I'm just taking the core out, and then any kind of blemishes and stuff like that I'm just cutting off. Anything I don't want to eat, cutting it off. And then I'm going to blanch them in hot water for couple of seconds and then put them in an ice bath so I can skin them. So these are my trays of cherry tomatoes that I came up with. I got 4 trays, and I just washed them, dried them, and cut them in half, and then split them up between the trays. And then I will dehydrate them at about 125 degrees in my dehydrator and preserve them. So what I have here is a pot of boiling water, and then here is a water bath. It's just cool water, and all I'm going to do is drop my tomatoes down into here in batches for a couple of seconds until I start to see the peels loosening, and then I'll plunge them into the cool water to cool them down so I can take off the skins. So you can see on this tomato that the skins are starting to fall off, so I can just put them in this cold water once I start seeing that. And then once these are cooled, the skins just very easily peel right off. And now this one is completely skinned, and I can dice it. So then after you have all your tomatoes skinned, you can dice them up to whatever size that you want. I'm just making, preserving them as diced tomatoes plain. I'm going to add some salt to it just for some flavoring. And maybe a couple of the jars I might put like basil leaves or something like that, just to see how I like that. But for the most part, these are just going to be plain diced tomatoes that I can choose to do whatever with later, but it'll be unseasoned, so it'll be very versatile. So I'll just dice all these up, and I have quart jars here with 2 tablespoons of lemon juice in them, and I'm going to be filling them up to a 1/2 inch headspace. And I'm cutting them on a flexible board here, which is going to spill all over the place and make a big mess, but I can also just kind of dump these in here. As I go. And I'll just keep doing that until these are filled. So now I have my jar filled to a 1/2 inch headspace. I'm going to add salt to these tomatoes. And this is just a teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to use a chopstick to get any air bubbles out. I packed these tomatoes in very tight, smushed it all down to try to alleviate some of that air that was trapped in there, but this just gets anything that's left in there. And then I'll just wipe the rim and put a lid on and move on to my next jar. And I'll be pressure canning these. So here's my first quart jar of tomatoes. So I ended up with 3 quarts of tomatoes and 1 pint of tomatoes, and then I also had a batch of chicken broth a small batch of chicken broth that I had made. So I'm just going to process them all now in my pressure cooker for 25 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. So this is what I got. 3 quart jars of my broth that I had made. And then you'll see I have the 2 quart tomatoes and the 1 pint tomato. But you can see on all my jars on the tops that they are dirty. And there's tomato bits on here. And if you'll remember, I put in 3 quart jars. And in full disclosure, here's that 3rd one. And you'll see that it still has the ring on, because this one, you can see, lost a lot of volume in the processing. And I think I had overpacked it and it siphoned out, so it lost all that volume during processing, and this did not seal. So the contents in here is still good, but I have the ring still on it, and I'm keeping it in my refrigerator just to use for immediate use. I won't be storing these. So that's kind of a bummer. But the rest of these are good. They all sealed. I'll wash them off before I store them so that nothing gets to them. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. But it's all a learning process. And I still have 2 quarts and a pint that I can store. And this pint, or this quart that, like I said, is still good. It's just going to be immediate use. That's what I got today. And then I just wanted to show you guys the finished product here on our dehydrated cherry tomatoes. They're nice and dried out. Or not. Okay. Well, anyway, they are. Guess you'll just have to take my word on it. And I have 4 trays of these. So then I'm just going to preserve them like this in a mason jar. And the nice thing about these trays is I can just take this mat and bend it and then just dump it in to my mason jar here. Okay, so I apparently did not give these the credit that they deserved, and I needed to upgrade to a quart jar because my pint was filled in 2 trays. But now I have almost a full quart of these tomatoes, and these are going to be great in any kind of a pasta or soups or stews. I can also take a portion of them and put them in oil and let them rehydrate a little bit, and then I can maybe dice them up or something like that once they're a little more plump, and I can put them on a salad or something like that. Anything that you're going to make that has liquid in it, they're obviously going to rehydrate with that liquid. But if you're going to be using them by themselves, like in a salad or something like that that doesn't have liquid, then you're going to need to rehydrate them with some olive oil or something. But yeah, I look forward to using those. And that's what I came up with the cherry tomatoes that we picked from my dad's garden. Thank you guys for stopping by today and joining in on our journey here at Bare Bones Living. We'll catch you on the next one.